Hi, this is Reinhard from EverydaySystems.com. I think this is some kind of record now, how long it's been since my last podcast. So I thought I'd go back in sort of with one toe, testing the waters. And instead of describing some full-fledged system or big issue, I'm going to describe a simple little mod to the NoS diet. For those of you who don't know what a mod is short for modification, a little tweak, a little adjustment to a system. And we've had a lot of discussion over the years on the bulletin board and in other podcasts about this. But although there's been a lot of discussion of these mods and tweaks, generally speaking, I've tried to dissuade people from doing them. Because I think a lot of times people rush in too soon, and vanilla NoS, vanilla for non-American English speakers, means plain unmodified NoS, with patience is really what most people need. But I myself now, the founder of NoS and champion of vanilla, am now practicing a mod, and I'd like to tell you about it. I've been doing NoS now for almost 10 years, since late 2001, and it's been vanilla NoS, and I've not had any yo-yoing or weight issues. I'm 40 pounds down and maintaining steadily, and I've been very happy doing it. So you might wonder, why a mod? Why a mod after a decade of doing something that's worked really well? And I think from a weight management perspective, I personally don't need this mod. I think I could be perfectly happy to go another 10 or 20 years or whatever practicing plain old vanilla NoS. But I think a lot of people can't, or seem to be having a hard time. And I wanted to test drive something I thought might help them. That's one motivation. I had another more selfish one that I'll tell you about in a bit, or at least one that emerged as I was doing this. A lot of people, I've noticed, seem to have problems with S days. You'd think this would be the easiest part of the system, the most attractive, right? Your reward. It's the carrot that gets you to consent to the stick. But no, the stick people seem to have an easier time with. What seems to happen is that a lot of people, instead of seeing this as a reward and enjoying it, they go bananas. They can't handle the freedom on S days. They lose control and just start stuffing themselves. Now, the standard advice I give, which I think is still good advice for most situations, for most people at least, is to relax, focus on the N days. The S days will come. Your habits will start to transfer to the weekends. It's a mistake to mess with this important safety valve. It's a distraction that diverts your precious willpower and attention from where they're most needed during the week. Focus on N days, soldier on, and in time, the S days will sort themselves out. That's my standard advice, and I think that it's still true and good advice. And I encourage you to listen to or read the transcript of my previous podcast on the subject, S Days Gone Wild, for a more detailed presentation of this argument. But there seems to be a problem for a lot of people with just weight, a psychological problem. Because even if just weight will work for most people, if they can make themselves do it, a lot of people can't. They get discouraged by their out-of-control eating on the weekends, and they never make it over that hump. They can't hold out long enough to see their S days just sort themselves out. And what's interesting, I think, is that it's not so much the inevitable uptick on the scale after a particularly wild weekend that seems to discourage people. It's the feeling that their behavior is out of control. It's the behavior itself more than the results of the behavior, which pains them, which is a little weird if you think about it, but I guess that's human nature. And as a proponent of moderation as a good in itself, I can actually very much relate to this, that the opposite of moderation is an evil in itself. So the mod I came up with to address this issue of out-of-control S days is, in addition to vanilla NoS, you add this extra rule. No solitary snacking, even on S days. I'll repeat that one more time. No solitary snacking, even on S days. And what I like about this rule is that it targets just the problem without sacrificing anything really good. It doesn't take it all away from your reward, the reward aspect of S days. It just cuts down on the automatic, compulsive, out-of-control eating that isn't really a pleasure anyway, the kind of eating that makes a lot of people hate S days. Let me explain the mechanics so you can see how this works. You can still have as many meals with as many courses and as many desserts as you want on an S day. What you can't do is between meals just walk into the pantry and start stuffing yourself, eating out of the box. You can walk into the pantry, put something on a plate, sit down, and call it a meal. Now, you might think that's a subtle distinction, but it's actually not, because that little bit of extra formality, of intentionality, provides enough speed bump to either jolt you to your senses or limit the damage. You're circumscribing your mealified snack with a plate. You're limiting it. Yes, you can go up and have another one, but there's an activation energy to that which will dissuade you and work to your advantage here. And you'll probably also enjoy that mealified snack more or at all now that you have a little more formality around it. The other kind of snacking that is permitted on S days under this new tweak, which is not quite as important but not insignificant, is social snacking. So the main sort of use case or scenario of this is you're at someone's house, they offer you a snack, and if you refused, they'd be like, wait, I don't understand. You know, the no S diet, you're supposed to be able to snack today. So in order to avoid that awkwardness, you can officially say yes in those situations. You could also initiate the invitation for social snacking yourself, but again, there's a sort of activation energy to that, and frankly, a sort of embarrassment that maybe will make those not so common. I've been practicing this system for about a month or two now, and I've been stunned at both how easy it's been to do and how much I enjoy it. I haven't noticed any change in weight personally, but I don't really want to. I'm happy where I am. But I got rid of a kind of eating that I don't like. That's a displeasure. Now, for me, this displeasure may have been one of the last pockets of resistance of a largely defeated enemy. But I think for others, it might represent a significant force that threatens their whole no-S enterprise. Even calorically, I think it might have a big impact for some people. But more importantly, I think it's a morale issue. It's a relatively non-demanding, non-intrusive way of feeling in control on S days, of not feeling like your appetite is driving you, which I think, as I mentioned before, is really more than any scale number blip that people see after an over-the-top weekend, what discourages them. So what if you start with this mod, you're convinced here by what I'm saying, and you screw up next weekend? I would not count it as a no-S failure. I would keep these distinct. You don't want to be able to fail on no-S on an S day. You could make a separate sort of habit that you're tracking in HabitCal or equivalent. I don't do that. But I would keep this compliance distinct from vanilla no-S, again, for morale reasons. A significant, if not the main reason you're doing this is for morale, so you don't want that to backfire. One more thing I should mention. Nicest of the Damned on the bulletin board has been practicing a couple of mods kind of similar to what I've been describing, which I should mention here. One, just because she thought of it first, to give her credit, and also because the mechanics might appeal to you a little more. It addresses a very similar problem. One of the mods is, I think it's the sitting mod, or no standing mod. And the idea is that even when you're snacking, legitimately on S days, you have to sit. So you introduce that speed bump of process by sitting. The other one is no eating out of packages, NEP, which is sort of self-explanatory and the same basic idea. That's it. I'm curious to hear what you think. Please post to the bulletin board and let us know. And I promise, tentatively promise, not to let another year slip by before my next podcast episode. Thanks for listening.